I do want you to know that we have an audio issue this morning. The Legion's main system had a fuse blow, and as a result, we're operating off of handheld mics rather than our lapel lavalier mics. So that is going to minimize the audio on a couple of videos that I would like to play this morning. So when those videos are playing, I'm going to be holding a microphone over here on my computer, and hopefully you'll be able to hear them. I think you will, as long as we don't have a lot of background noise.
Get out. What did I say? What did I say to you? For another minute. 15. That's 8:14.
Have you ever seen this part? It's called air disasters. Have you ever seen that? And so many of them are maintenance problems. They're just stupid crap or ignorant. Guys are like, oh, the next shift will get it. The next thing you know, they roll the plane down there and it's sitting inside. It's just like.
Doesn't all sound like
Well, good morning, Patriots. Welcome to the 286th consecutive Friday meeting of the East Valley Red Friday Patriots. We want to express our gratitude. Did anybody get a head count this morning? 93 here today. There's a lot of bacon and eggs. But we do want to express our gratitude to each of you for joining us this morning in 228,000 deployed service members to over 150 countries around the globe. And to those of you who may be watching this program this morning on YouTube, we also wish to thank you for joining us and for your support. Folks, as the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday rapidly approaches, I'm confident that most Americans will be expressing thanks to the good Lord for their personal blessings and the bounty of this beautiful country. In our homes, where we are currently at peace, and in houses of worship, families across America will gather in gratitude for all that God has given us and for the blessings that He bestowed upon our nation. However, many of America's armed forces will not be with their families. Nearly 228,000 of them will be far, far away from their homes and their friends, and far from the land that they have sworn to defend. But it will be business as usual for those deployed service members. Therefore, for all of us here at home, I think it's important that we remember our defenders of freedom and give thanks for their service. We owe much to those who, over centuries, have stood the long, hazardous, and often lonely vigil of protecting American freedom around the globe. You know, whatever the danger, whatever the cost. America's blessings of security and abundance have always rested on those who were willing to risk their lives and sacrifice personal well-being for the freedom of America. Those same blessings of security and abundance are dependent upon the men and women who are in service to our country today. As we reflect upon the history that we have here in America, we'll recall that the first Thanksgiving was actually celebrated by a small group of quite valiant pioneers. Pioneers who were confronted by the harshness of an untamed nature, the hazards of perceived enemies, and the uncertainties of a New England winter. Yet, on one particular and memorable day in November, set aside to express their gratitude, those early pioneers thanked their good Lord who had permitted them to survive the year and reap the harvest. They gave thanks for having been brought to a place where they could hope to prosper and to be free. Well, today, America is prosperous, and America is mighty beyond the farthest imagining of those early pioneers. Yet, throughout the centuries, we continue to celebrate the same humbling ritual of Thanksgiving. The day of Thanksgiving reminds us that the pathway to freedom is always complicated. It reminds us that the pathway to freedom can be a perilous journey. It reminds us that democracy is a goal and not an achievement. It reminds us of the fragility of our democratic republic. In fact, if history has taught us anything, it's that peace and freedom come only to those who work for it and are ready to defend it. And it's taught us that the rewards for our nation are at the mercy of the good Lord, who has thus far seen fit to bless this astonishing land and its people. And it is for that peace and that prosperity that during this period of gratitude and thanksgiving, we give thanks and pray that we may continue to deserve the good Lord's blessing. So, on Thanksgiving, as you're preparing to serve that traditional turkey and dressing and possibly be surrounded by family and friends and loved ones, let's keep America's warriors in our thoughts and in our prayers, especially those that will be separated from their loved ones while serving in faraway lands. You know, according to military strategy, the best way to win a war is to thoroughly understand the enemy, to strategically maneuver your enemy into a position of weakness, and to utilize tactics like divide and conquer, and to maintain a strong offensive while exploiting your enemy's vulnerabilities. In other words, essentially outsmarting the enemy through superior planning, intelligence gathering, and tactical execution, while minimizing unnecessary casualties and maximizing your own strength. But it's also said that the best way to win a war is to be the good guys. Americans have generally always been the guys in the white cowboy hat that rode into town to protect the innocent and stare down evil in the street at high noon. Sometimes it seems we may have forgotten that included in this winning formula is to be kind, to be friendly, to be humble, to be courageous, to be unwavering, to be polite, strong, and to be optimistic. You know, to be American. That's really what this country is all about. I think that we must remember that war isn't just about body counts. It isn't just about drones. It isn't just about daisy cutter bombs or surges. It should be about the good guy on the side of truth and justice. And if it is not, well then, maybe we shouldn't be there. Let's take a moment and listen to a song written and performed by former U.S. Army Ranger Jared Thompson, a veteran of the 1st Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, while serving in Afghanistan in 2015, knowing he would not be home with his family to celebrate Thanksgiving. Jared wrote this song for his son, Jamin Thompson. The video depicts a little different spin on war than what we might be accustomed to seeing. It's a quite positive spin, depicting American warriors doing what American warriors have done for centuries, and that's demonstrating humanity at its best in the face of evil. The song is a touching reminder about serving in harm's way while loved ones back home await their family member's safe return. And it should make all Americans proud of the valiant troops who are committed to defend our beloved country and our freedom while simultaneously demonstrating compassion and humanity. This song serves as a special Thanksgiving shout out to our troops and their families. This is former U.S. Ranger Jared Thompson singing "Gone for So Long."
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I want to take this opportunity to welcome a few guests that we have here this morning. First time guest, Fran Starr. Where are you, Fran? Fran, I understand that you are a resident over at Palmas del Sol East.
Correct.
I am so elated that you have joined us today. We need more representation from the East Thesman group over there. So, how did you learn about our group?
Jim, without a notice.
And you trusted what he had to say?
I had already been here for food before, so I knew the place existed, so I'm good.
Now you know we exist, so we hope that you will return and bring some more PDSC books over here with you, okay?
Okay.
Thank you for joining us. Also, we have George Sutherland. George, where are you? George is back there all the way in the rear. George, were you able to hear that video that we just played?
Yes, as a matter of fact, once you put the mic to it.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to hear that, because I've got a bit of a concern this morning about this audio. However, we'll move on. You are a United States Army veteran who served 1969 to 1972.
That is correct.
And why in the hell did you join Airborne?
For lack of anything else better to do.
You were with 173rd?
That is correct, along with my partner over here. He was in 173rd with me in Vietnam at the same time I was.
And where did you take your airborne training?
We went to Benin, and then after that it was Vietnam.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for joining us today. And you and I need to sit down one of these days and get face to face to talk about this airborne stuff.
I'd love to. I'd like to say one thing. It was Chuck who actually brought us on over here, Chuck Myers. And so we're really happy to be invited to see all of you. Thank you.
Use caution. Also, we have Chuck Sion. Is that how you? Scene. Chuck Scene. You were also a United States Army. You served 70 to 73. You were 11 Bravo.
11 Bravo 2P, which is parachute. Airborne. Yeah.
Every day.
How many times have you been told that? How in the hell did you ever think about jumping out of a perfectly good airplane? I've heard that all of my life, so I'm sure that you guys have as well.
Well, I grew up around Army people. My father was 10th Armored, I think, in World War II. And I heard about airborne, and I read those devils in baggy pants and curry, and I thought, you know, that's me. I want to do that.
I envy you for having had the opportunity to qualify for those jump wings. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Jim Bean, is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah,
Ben.
yeah, being wild.
BMY.
Hi.
Jim, finally we got a Navy guy in here. But we've got a Navy guy that retired for the United States Navy with 30 years, 20 years, 75 to 95.
Yes, sir.
A long time. How much of that time did you spend on the water?
Not as much as you think.
You must have had a cush job.
Yeah, oxymoron.
And just out of curiosity, because I've asked this of some of our Navy vets before, out of 20 years of service, how much time did you actually spend on the water?
Oh, Jesus.
3 years, 5 years total?
Yeah, 5.5.
5.5 years?
Yes, sir.
What the hell did you do for the rest of that time?
I just said oxymoron, military intelligence.
Superb. Superb. One of those, if I told you I'd have to kill you things.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it very much. And Karen Franz. Karen, where are you? Karen? Karen, welcome today. You are also a resident of Palmas del Sol East.
That's right.
Wow, I don't know what has prompted you guys to come out of the woodwork, but we're glad to have you here. Very much so. And what was the motivator for you to attend today? Who recommended?
My husband. He's very interested in this group, and because he was in the service, and we actually we met when he was in the service in Germany, and that was 60 some years ago.
Come again. 60 years ago, you met that gentleman in Germany, and you followed him all the way back. That's a lot of trust. Well, we're glad to have you with us today, Karen, and we hope that you will return.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Kirk Norton, where's Kirk? Kirk, oh my goodness, you were referred here by Mike Scandrett.
First on his list, I'm sure.
And you are a Gold Canyon resident.
Yes.
And how did you run across Mike?
In a Bible study through
Superb.
CCB.
Superb. And you took his word for it and followed him over here?
Sure. Breakfast?
That's how he's enticing some of these new guys. Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
I got the secret. Glad to have you with us today. Thank you for joining us. And returning, I believe, is Steve Curtis. Where are you, Steve? Steve Curtis, where is he? Right over here. Steve, you've been here before.
Yes, sir.
How long has it been?
Last April.
Okay, so you are a winter visitor,
Yes.
and you are out of South Dakota.
Well, we were traveling, and so that's our
Okay,
residence according to my driver's license.
but you're a United States Air Force veteran, 71 to 77.
Yes.
Thank you for your service, and thank you for coming back.
Glad to be here.
Dr. Major, in answer to your question about jumping out of perfectly good airplanes, if you've ever ridden in a 119 Boxcar, you understand that that's not a perfectly good airplane.
Let's give these first-time guests a big hoo-ah. Over the past, this is, November is Military Appreciation Month. And over the past couple of weeks, we've had all of our Armed Forces veterans that we penned with a token of our appreciation for your service. If you were not here over the past 2 Fridays and you are a veteran, would you please stand right back here in the middle of the hallway between the rectangular and the round tables? Do we have anyone here? Come on up here. Right there in the middle. Anyone else who was not here over the past 2 Fridays? Thank you. You know, prior to moving to Mesa, Hank and I were living in Austin, Texas, near most of our family members. One year, on Thanksgiving Eve, about 8 p.m., I called my adult daughter to tell her some bad news. I said, "Sweetie, I hate to tell you this, but Hank and I are getting a divorce." My daughter said, "Dad, why? What happened?" I said, "Sweetie, I've been miserable for years, and I just can't take it anymore. I packed my bags, and I'm leaving tonight." She said, "Wait, Dad, don't do anything drastic. I'm coming over to talk to you guys. Can you at least wait until tomorrow morning. I said, okay, I'll wait. Why don't you bring Michael and the kids over? I said, I'm sure Hank will want to see them too. My daughter said, okay, Dad, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Well, I hung up the phone, I looked at Hank and I said, honey, the kids are coming over tomorrow for Thanksgiving, they can cook the turkey. I would now like to ask Hank Nations to come up and introduce our guest speaker.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Better.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me the opportunity to introduce our guest speaker, a woman of faith who is a wife, a mother, a public relations counselor with accreditation in public relations. She is a U.S. Navy veteran and a strong veterans advocate. Paula Pedene is a nationally recognized advocate and speaker on ethics and leadership. She is a pioneering whistleblower at the Phoenix Veterans Administration, and she played a key role in exposing the national wait time scandal, which inspired a wave of whistleblowers across the Department of Veterans Affairs. Her story is detailed in her award-winning book, A Sacred Duty: How a Whistleblower Took on the VA and Won. The book underscores the power of perseverance on moral grounds. Paula is a 5-time Public Relations Society of America, PRSA, Silver Anvil Awardee, and PRSA College of Fellows member. She is a visionary in public relations, championing its role in enhancing organizational culture. Her contributions have earned her the Public Relations Professional of the Year, the John McCain Leadership Award, induction into the Arizona Veterans Hall of Fame, and induction in the Defense Information School Hall of Fame. Despite a hereditary eye condition, Paula remains dedicated to advocacy. She lives with her husband, Bill, a retired Navy commander, and their 2 sons. Let us take a moment to learn more about this remarkable veteran advocate.
It takes unique courage to put your livelihood on the line to speak out against wrong. For Paula Pedene, there was no hesitation in moving forward with shocking information that eventually resulted in the removal and resignations of several top officials at the Department of Veterans Affairs. This was not in the game plan when Paula began her career journey. A California native, she joined the Navy in 1978 to serve her country, see the world, and earn her college degree. Paula spent nearly 9 years on active duty, where she ended up working as a Navy journalist. In 1990, during Operation Desert Storm, Paula re-enlisted in the Navy Reserves. She produced training videos for the service members, and when she wasn't on her Navy drills, she worked on a TV show called For Veterans Only. It was that experience that led to her first job with the VA in 1991 as a public affairs officer. During a VA career spanning nearly 30 years, Paula won numerous awards, including Silver Anvils and the Public Relations Professional of the Year honors. Yet in 2012, during her 20-year stint as a public affairs officer at Carl T. Hayden Veterans Affairs Medical Center in Phoenix, Paula was banished to the basement library. The reason? The center's director feared Paula would expose her unethical behavior, as happened to the director she replaced. During her exile, Paula began looking into rumors that some VA clinic administrators were reporting improved care and earning bonuses when the opposite was true. Delayed care and procedures were resulting in the unnecessary deaths of our veterans. Paula, who remained anonymous, found allies in Phoenix, including VA physician Dr. Sam Foote, and Arizona Republic reporter Dennis Wagner, and Congressman Jeff Miller. When the dust settled, it was discovered that 111 VA hospitals around the country were delaying healthcare treatment to our veterans. Sweeping changes to the VA healthcare system were quickly enacted thanks to Paula and other whistleblowers. Mission accomplished. Paula continued her career with the VA and continued winning awards for her expertise as a communication specialist, in addition to her contributions to numerous veterans and PR organizations. Her book, A Sacred Duty: How a Whistleblower Took on the VA and Won, is a heart-wrenching tale of the challenges whistleblowers face when telling the truth. And in her case, how her faith helped carry the day. Paula currently lives in Phoenix, where since 1997, she has been the driving force behind the annual Phoenix Veterans Day Parade. Please welcome Paula Pedene.
Well, thanks you guys. That was so wonderful. And what a great group you have. I think you deserve a round of applause. Really. So, there we go. All right, so I'm here today to talk about something that nobody really wants to do. I mean, how many of you ever dreamed of being a whistleblower? Can I see a show of hands? It's not easy, believe me, but it is something that was necessary and something that I kind of fell into, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. So, first of all, as Dick and Larry have done such a wonderful job getting everything ready. I'm just sorry the fuse blew. As you probably know, only 1% of our military is, the demographics of our country. 1%. And 9% of us are military veterans. So it is important to us to continue to help put our courage, our honor, our values out there for everyone to see. And I think one of the best things that happened to me in the Navy was that I learned about their core values. And they are honor, courage, and commitment. And believe me, I saw them present pretty much every single day. Even when the going was tough, and we know that things aren't always easy in the military. Being raised as a Catholic, I didn't have any problems accepting these kinds of values. And it was helpful to me to just see that they were being lived out every day. So when I faced evil in front of me, it was really hard to just do nothing like many other people were doing. And I became what is called a whistleblower. I didn't really know what a whistleblower was at the time. As a matter of fact, when I went to file my case, my attorney said, "We're gonna have to file a whistleblower case." And I asked him, I said, "What is that?" And I didn't know that just standing up and telling the truth, and exposing wrongdoing meant that I was a whistleblower, and that's what I was. And it came about in a roundabout way. I had worked at the Phoenix VA healthcare system for many years. I started there in 1994, and I had a wonderful boss that was a Vietnam veteran, and he empowered his people, just like good veterans do that are in leadership. And he would often tell us, he goes, "Look, if the patients come into the hospital and they can't get the help they need because of some policy that's blocking you from what you do, is right, and it's not illegal, immoral, or breaking the law, I want you to rule on the side of our nation's veterans." That's how he led that hospital. I mean, from 1994 to 2009, that's the leadership I had. And he would often say to me, he's like, he hired me, I was the first full-time public affairs officer. And he would say, he goes, I don't know exactly what you do, but I know you're good at it. He goes, so I want to meet with you weekly just to keep tabs on you. I'm like, oh yes sir, that's fine by me. And we developed a wonderful relationship that still exists today. He retired in 2009, we still keep in touch, and just a wonderful man. And he built the Phoenix VA. He took it from one of the lowest funded hospitals in the system that had some of the top performing marks to getting more money and even doing better things. And at the same time, the public affairs program was struggling right along with the Phoenix VA. We had one of the top PR programs in the country. We were earning all kinds of national awards. They would call me into Washington, D.C. and said, we want to implement a similar program like you have in Phoenix all across the country. So we were really on a roll at the Phoenix VA. We were just doing wonderful things for our nation's veterans, and we were growing. More and more veterans kept coming into the system. So in 1997, a group of us had participated in a community outreach fair that was actually a walk and a fair that took place from Park Central Mall at the time to the Phoenix VA. And it was kind of, they called it a parade, and it was lightly attended. I think maybe there was 100 people on the streets. And even though I really didn't have much to do with it, my boss, when I met with him that week, he looks right at me, he points his finger, and he says, that parade needs to be better next year. I'm like, okay. And I went about my business, figured out how to put on a better parade, met with the council members that we needed to meet with to get the city of Phoenix's support. And then the very next year, we had a big, beautiful VA Veterans Day parade that had 10,000 people on the streets, had thousands of veterans and military members in the parade. And got millions of media impressions. So it was really a beautiful event, not only for the VA, because it was helping our brand and our image, but for our nation's veterans. I did not know how much events like this, and how much a parade, and how much an honor and recognition event can help our nation's veterans heal. I had no idea until we had that parade, and I saw it right there in front of my eyes. So it really is a beautiful thing to do. And then after my boss retired, we got this Yahoo in for a leader that was not a veteran. And it's like, I told the associate director, who was kind of sort of my friend, but I think he was getting ready to throw me under the bus. I said, the hardest part for me is I have to run around behind the guy and fluff his feathers like a peacock to make sure they're always standing up straight. And that's how he was. He didn't really care about our veterans. He cared about himself and getting his image out there. And in order to make himself look good, he wanted to get a second MRI. And the problem for him was that we really didn't have the need for a second MRI. So guess what he started doing? He was the first one that started delaying care for our nation's veterans in 2009. And he would tell the radiology chief that if you do not suppress the requests that are coming through, you will get fired. You will get fired. And of course, we didn't know that at the time. But we found out, Dr. Sam Foote and I. Sam Foote was on the clinical executive board. He was the member at large, so he had the ear of all the doctors in the hospital. And this leader was also good because he never served in the military at deriding everyone in public, which we know you do not do. You praise in public and criticize in private. He missed that memo too. And he derided me in public so bad one day. He liked to pick on me. He just didn't want me to be his public affairs officer. And unfortunately for him, when you're a federal employee and you're doing a stellar job, it's really hard to get rid of you. It really is. So he couldn't just fire me, so he wanted to make me miserable. I think they got a memo on making people miserable somewhere up there. But he derided me in public. I went back to my office. Dr. Foote called me, and he said, Paula, if I was in the room today, I would have clocked him. And I said, oh, Sam, thank you so much. He goes, how you doing? And we started talking. And he had heard about the weights and delays in radiology. I had heard about some of the fee basis mismanagement that was going on. We collaborated together. We went to the chain of command, and the chain of command actually listened to us. They were hearing the same bad things about this peacock, and the OIG was called in. They found out that what we were saying was true. It was verified. He was forced to retire, and new leadership came in. So we were like, oh, thank God, that's over. You know, now we can get back to serving our nation's veterans. But little did we know that the storm is brewing, and it came in the way of this director. How many of you have heard the name of Sharon Hellman? Yeah, you know, it's been 10 years. That's kind of, it's starting to fade. But it is important to remember, this is not a VA bashing story. I get my care at the VA and other places. I do have to blend it now because it's a whistleblower. I'm not sure who's on my side and who isn't. But the VA does give good care. The problem that we have in any organization is if you have an unethical leader, everything starts going downhill fast because Satan comes in and really takes over. And we forget that it is a spiritual battle every day. And we had no idea when she came in what she would do. But here I am, a female public affairs officer. We got rid of the other guy. I'm excited because it's the first time in 60 years we've had a female at the helm of the Phoenix VA. You know, so I got her in touch with the mayor at the time, Greg Stanton. I got her in touch with Betsy Bayless, who ran Maricopa County Hospital. I had a column on her in the Arizona Republic. I got her around to meet with all the members of the media. I had her beautiful congressional briefing with all the liaisons from the congressional offices, and did my part in making sure that her arrival was well announced, well executed, and to the point where she was well set up. And for whatever reason, she found out that I was still talking to Sam Foote, and she did not like that. So the next thing I knew, I was being targeted and Sam was being targeted. And I'll tell you, in the government, they say that they can kill you through 1,000 paper cuts. And it is so true. They do little things. They don't let you go here. They don't let you go there. They don't approve your leave until it's 5 minutes before your leave is supposed to start. They don't, they take away your funding. They take away your staffing. They take away your ability to work. It was so funny. She came to me one day and said, you know, we noticed that you're working on the weekends. I said, well, I can't keep up since you took away my staff and budget. She goes, you can't work on the weekends anymore. And I'm like, okay. Well, so then I had to go into hiding and still do the work because I wasn't going to let our veterans down. So one day I was caught between a rock and a hard place. I had, we just had our Phoenix Veterans Day Parade, the VA Veterans Day Parade, and I was putting together all the awards for the groups that were going to win Best Float, Best Musical Group, Best this, Best that. And I had to finish a PowerPoint, I had to finish the director's speech, I had to do all the certificates for the awardees, I had to line up all of the awards, make sure I had all of them, they were spelled correctly, and I had no staff to do it. So I asked my husband, a registered VA volunteer who had taken the photos at the parade, to put the pictures from the parade into a PowerPoint that I had created. So I logged him onto the computer, I put the disk into the drive, pulled up the PowerPoint on the desktop, and he did as I asked him to do while I worked on everything else. We had a beautiful award ceremony, and right after that, they took me out of my job because they said that I had conducted a privacy breach by logging my husband onto a VA computer to put pictures in a public presentation. That was their nomenclature for my removal. And that they were gonna put me under 30-day investigation to look into this and blah, 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 blah. Well, the 30 days turned into 60 days, turned into 90 days, and finally, the media started noticing because they're not getting any news releases. They're not seeing any updates on the website. They're not seeing any posts on social media. They're, all these things. They call over to the hospital and they're like, where's Paula? Oh, she got taken out of her job. Because what they did was they took me out of my job for this minor infraction. They took away my BlackBerry. They took away my email. They locked me out of my office down to the first floor and escorted me off the property and told me I was placed on leave for the rest of the day, as if I was a convicted criminal, And the first thing I did was I called my attorney because I knew him from the first whistleblower experience. So he and I started working together, and 90 days into my 30-day detail, this story hit the front page of the Arizona Republic. And the Phoenix VA had nothing on me. The privacy breach that they had sent up to Washington, D.C. got denied. They appealed it. It got denied a second time. They knew they needed to put me back in my job, and they did it. And the media knew that something was wrong. So they started the VA, because they knew they were gonna have to put me back in my job, started this massive disinformation campaign against me. Oh, she did this. Oh, she mismanaged funds. Oh, she's under criminal investigation. And you know what? I couldn't believe it. They actually looked back in my financial funds. How many years do you think they went back? Any guesses? 40. Oh, close. 10. Who said 10? Good job. 10 years. Now, who in the world does a 10-year review on finances unless they're trying to dig up dirt on you? And they came up with a bunch of garbage that I had to defend. Now, mind you, while VA's running this disinformation campaign, they have lawyers on staff and on call. And guess what Paula has to do? Paula has to go out there, hire lawyers, get the money. My first check that I wrote was $5,000. My very first check. And the legal bills keep mounting when you're in this kind of a situation. And it's all designed to make you crumble. It really is. It's just designed to make you crumble. So after that story hits the paper in March, in April, Sharon decides, okay, well, we need to bring her back because we really don't have anything on her. And they're like, but we're really going to make her miserable, more miserable than she is, and we're going to take away the VA Veterans Day Parade. Can you believe a VA hospital? That's what they did. But this video actually highlights the fact that the mayor got behind us. He's like, so first of all, what happened was Rick Bromley, do you guys know Rick Bromley? Any of you remember Rick Bromley? So Rick Bromley was one of my advisors. I couldn't hire him because he had worked with the federal government. And I said, Rick, you are not going to believe it, but they are taking away the Veterans Day Parade. He goes, oh, no, they don't. So he immediately called Dennis Wagner at the Arizona Republic, and he got in touch with Graham Resnick at 12 News, and they created, and he told the mayor of Phoenix, and the next thing you know, everybody is up in arms. The veteran service organizations are livid because the VA is walking away from the VA Veterans Day Parade. And the reason that Sharon Hellman gave to them for walking away from the parade is that she had to review the time that staff spent on providing health care access to our nation's veterans. Okay? That was her reasoning. So they take away the parade. The good news is the parade goes on because Greg Stanton said, whatever I can do to help you, I will. And fortunately for us, we had had a nonprofit in place to help us get the funding that we needed for some of the things that the VA couldn't pay for, because the VA has to limit its expenditures in the public to community outreach only. And that would only entail our VA entry, is what that meant. So we had all these other expenses. You have to close the streets, you have to get J-Johns, you have to notify the community that you're closing the streets. All those things, those were paid for by the nonprofit. And what happened was Catherine Brooks went over, talked to Greg Stanton, and my lawyers were talking to the VA lawyers, and they said, you know, we want to know, what could she do on her own time? If she wanted to, you know, work on a parade on her own time, could she? And they told them I could. So I went underground and I worked on the parade, and the next year, the very next, well, that year actually, the parade went on, and it was truly a wonderful day for everybody. I mean, I'm under an illegal and immoral, unethical gag order, so I can't say anything. I'm supposedly under this 30-day investigation. By this time, it has gotten up to almost a year that I'm out of my job, and the parade went on, and we pulled it off. It was really beautiful through the support of the nonprofit Honoring America's Veterans. So I had one day of glory, and then guess where I go? Back to the library. That's where they banished me. Checking in books, checking out books, making copies for our nation's veterans. You know, a lot of our veterans are indigent. They don't have access to phones. They don't have access to computers. They don't have access to copy machines. So they would go to the library at the Phoenix VA and use all those services. So I'm back in the library doing the right thing, according to my new job description that I had. But all this while, I'm hearing lots of disturbing news about patients waiting for their health care. And I'm writing anonymous letters, because I can't speak, to the Office of the Medical Inspector, the Office of the Inspector General, the Joint Commission, an accrediting body that brings in people to look at healthcare systems. And finally, I decide to talk to Dr. Foote. And I said, Sam, I'm writing letters. Nobody, you know, they're not getting to the right places, or when they send people to come in and investigate, they don't know who to talk to. And he goes, well, let me do my own investigation. So he starts investigating, and he's asking the patients when they're coming in how long it's taking them, because Sharon Hellman is out there saying, guess what, we're getting our patients in within 14 days for their primary care appointments and 30 days for their specialty care appointments. And by doing that, she's entitled to these huge performance bonuses that have been established all across the country because we want our nation's veterans to get their health care in a timely and efficient manner, right? That's what we want. Well, Sam's finding out that his veterans that he's seeing personally at his clinic are waiting 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, some of them a year, to get their health care. And it was horrific. You can't take a patient who has prostate cancer and make them wait 12 months to get an appointment. The same with most any kind of cancer. Anything can go, you know, scary within 12 months if you don't get the health care you need. So what happened is that story hit the national news because Sam finally said, look, Paula, I've written 3 letters to the Office of the Inspector General. It's falling on deaf ears. I can see that I'm going to have to retire and blow this whole thing wide open. And I said, oh, Sam, I will help you. So I put him in touch with Dennis Wagner at the Arizona Republic. They had an editorial board with the Republic. I put him in touch with lots of other reporters. I got him media training from Rick Raleigh because I knew he would have to face the media. I got him in touch with staff members at the House Veterans Affairs Committee on Oversight and Investigations that was looking into waits and delays at the Phoenix VA and other VA hospitals. And I got him in touch with Eric Cannell, who was the liaison for Congressman Jeff Miller, who was on the Veterans Affairs Committee. And hopefully this video will play. Let's see. done it. I wonder why. So anyways, this video is heart-wrenching, it really is. It's so, so sad. You actually have a patient, and what the VA was doing at the time was they had an off-the-books waiting list. That's what they did. So you're a patient, and you present for your care. And the VA takes your information down, and they look for an appointment for you. And if they find that they can hit within that window that Sharon Hellman has mandated them to meet, of 14 days for primary care and 30 days for specialty care, what they do is they hit enter. And your appointment is then submitted into the computer system. But if they look at your appointment request and they don't have a doctor for you in that amount of time, they instead hit the print button. The request goes to a printer and it vaporizes from the computer system. Now, when VA is trying to move to completely electronic medical record and electronic appointments and all this kind of stuff, how well do you think the paper is going to do compared to the computer, right? I was with the gal that was managing what we ended up calling the secret wait list, and I saw it grow from this to this to this to this. And every single one of these is a patient that needs an appointment. And what happened was, she called me one day from my office, and she was crying. And she goes, I need you to take an early lunch. Can you meet me at the band pool? Because we used to ride together. And I said, absolutely. And I asked my supervisor, he was very kind and gracious, gave me the time away. And she had gotten a call from, she had made a call to schedule a Mr. Thomas Green's appointment. And what she found out when she talked to his daughter-in-law is that he had actually died 2 weeks prior to my phone call. And that's what that story shows. It shows you his personal battle. And it shows you that this was a common practice that they were using throughout the entire Phoenix VA. At that point in time, we had started grabbing all of the patient deaths that we could get our hands on from the paper list, and we're locking them away in a safe because we didn't want them to shred the evidence. And we had 40 cases that we were able to present to Congress. There was actually many more than that, and it's truly sad. So Congressman Miller questioned the Department of Veterans Affairs at a congressional hearing. If I were to have told you that 40 patients may have died while not receiving care at the Phoenix VA, would you say that was part of your look back and investigation into waits and delays at VA hospitals nationwide? And the VA Undersecretary said, no, Mr. Chairman, I would not. And what was happening was the people who were in central office liked Sharon Hellman. They had their eyes set on her for a promotion to come there to Washington, D.C. after she was finished in Phoenix, and they were going to put her somewhere else. So they were protecting her, and it was horrific. When that congressional hearing hit, the media stories went bonkers. They were on the front page of every single paper for months. They were on, on television everywhere. Veterans groups started calling for the Secretary of Veterans Affairs to resign. And it was important that they, asked to hold some accountability for what was happening, because how could the Secretary not know? We were writing letters to the Secretary, but unfortunately for him, his staff was keeping those letters away from him. So it just depends on how high evil goes up the chain of command. When they finally had that report and got all of the pressure from the media, the Office of the Inspector General sent their troops in to investigate the hospitals, and what they found was 111 of the 156 VA hospitals nationwide was doing the same thing that the Phoenix VA was doing. Can you imagine the thousands of veterans that were not getting care all across the country? This is what evil does. That's all I need to say. The Secretary of Veterans Affairs couldn't make it through that one. He was forced to resign. The best thing that he did before he resigned was he took Sharon Hellman out of her job. Because you know what happened? As soon as Congress had asked for the preservation of the records, like the ones including Thomas Green, they held a shredding party. They called staff in on overtime and had them shredding documents over the weekend because the Office of the Inspector General was coming in on weekend. You know, unethical leadership is just, they have no balance. No balance. They think that what they're doing is right, and that you know, and they try to scramble to find ways to work around it. But fortunately for us, the media and Congress held everybody accountable. The secretary resigns, Obama has to pick somebody new, and he picks a gentleman by the name of Bob McDonald, Army Airborne Ranger. Okay, Bob comes in, creates a wonderful culture change program, but poor Bob, he's there on the job, he comes in on Monday, and the Office of Special Counsel had talked to me 2 weeks prior and said, you know, now with Sharon out of her job, we think we'll get faster movement on your case, because it was going at a snail's pace, like most legal cases do. They just go so slow. So we want you to talk to this Washington Post reporter. And I did. And day 2 on the job, front page of the Washington Post, Bob McDonald wakes up to Paula Pedene right there with the headline, for whistleblowers, sometimes a good move can mean that you're banished to the department basement. And it goes into telling my whole story, how I was taken out of my job for a minor infraction. They had no evidence of it. By this time, it's like 20 months into my 30-day investigation. I have gone through 6 different trials, kangaroo court trials that the Phoenix VA put me under. It was just disgusting. So Bob comes in, he makes a decision, he's gonna come to Phoenix, he's gonna clean up the mess. I'm sitting there right front row when Bob McDonald is there, get to talk to him afterward. And it was at this point that the tide began to turn. Shinseki had taken Sharon Hellman out of her job. So what the OIG was starting to do at that point in time was like, they took me out of my job and took my email away, and they're rifling through your emails trying to see if they can catch you on anything. Well, they're rifling through Sharon Hellman's emails and they're hitting pager, okay? They're investigating me for 20 months now, rifling through all my emails, going back 10 years, coming up with nothing. They take Sharon out of her job in April, and in May, they hit pager with her. They found emails from her where she was illegally accepting gifts from a federal contractor, okay? Yeah, the story gets even juicier. She's married to another veteran. She has, I think it's 4 children. So she's married. In her weekly emails that I used to write to her, she's talking about her family and how they're going on vacation and what her husband's doing and all this stuff. And in the meantime, she's having this affair with that contractor. So it's like, and where did you think that was going to work out? So anyways, if you think there was accountability, there was to a degree, because she got fired for illegally accepting the gifts and is a convicted felon. But you know what never came to account? The delays, the deaths. Is that accountability? The FBI said they didn't have enough evidence. I didn't agree with them. Sam didn't either. But they were fired, she got fired, the associate director got fired, the chief of staff got fired, the chief of nursing was forced to retire. The VA at that point in time was doing everything it could in their power to settle my whistleblower case. And you know, the saddest thing for me was that when they were settling my case, they said, you know, Paula, we know you want to go back to the Phoenix VA. And I had often told them this, I just want to get the train back on the tracks and help it get moving again, you know, to do the most right things for our nation's veterans. And they said, we have dealt with whistleblowers for decades. You think you can do that, you can't. The people there won't accept you. And they were right. They gave me a promotion, I started a new job, and even though I had a new job, I was still getting harangued from the staff, from some of the staff at the Phoenix VA. So it was really kind of a sad situation for me, but the good news is I made it through. And you're wondering, like, well, how did somebody go from hell and back in 22 months and make it through? Because, you know, it's not only hard on me, it's hard on my family. You know, I look back at pictures in that video that Dick showed. Both my sons graduated from high school when I was in the basement library. You know, it wasn't in the job that I had earned. It was just really sad. So what do you do when you're in a situation like that? And this is what I want you to take away today. And I think Dick spoke to some of it. No matter what they do to you, doesn't matter. You have a higher calling. You continue to do good work, right? I never once took it out on our nation's veterans, even though I didn't want to sharpen their pencils. I didn't want to make copies. Didn't want to check back in that book. It was what it was required to do, and it's what they needed. So I helped them. And had I not been banished to the basement, I probably wouldn't have heard of all the stories of the waits and delays that got me started on all of this in the first place. You have to be clear about what not to do. You know, I had people say, well, if you just admit to this portion, you can get this. I'm like, but I didn't do that. You know, I know you're trying to reduce my sentence, but, you know, I had an honor code. I didn't do that. I am not going to take the fall for something I did not do. So you have to be clear about what not to do, in addition to what good to do. You have to proactively manage stress. You know, how many of you would be really happy to go from this high-paying top job on the 6th floor of the hospital down to the basement library where you have no windows, no nothing? You know, I was a wreck. I was really a wreck. And I went right back to my sailor days of, I'd come home, I'd open a bottle of wine and sit there and drink and cry to anyone on the phone that would listen to me. You know, after a couple of months, I thought, this is not helping. So I learned to proactively manage stress. I started doing yoga, which is absolutely wonderful. I continued to go to church more, I prayed more. It was really a time of closeness between me and God. So hardship is not lost on God. I can tell you that. And I prayed continuously, every day, many times a day. And that part of it was beautiful. It really was. I still pray to this day, not as fervently, but I think for this upcoming Advent season, that's one of the things I'm going to do. And then you have to hold true to your personal values. You know, honor, courage, commitment, truth. Those things matter. They matter. They matter to all of us. It's kind of sad we've gotten so far away from the days where we used to shake a hand and we had an agreement that we kept. Now we have 500 pieces of paper that make that agreement valid. It's just different. And we must have honesty in all we do. You know, every single step of the way, I told the truth, even when it was difficult. Yes, I admitted to logging my husband onto the computer. I did that. I wasn't going to lie about it. I did that. I didn't expect what I got, but I wasn't going to lie about it. even when they asked me point blank in numerous investigations, it was the truth that set the nation free. That's really what it was. So I think honesty and truth is the most important thing. And in hindsight, you know what? It was God's. It was God's calling for me to be banished to the basement library, because who else would have had the contacts to help expose this thing? Who else? I had to help Sam. And Sam and I had forged an earlier bond to do that. So it was God's grace that put me there. After 22 months of a really hard, difficult, challenging time, and in my new job, I'm like beat up. I'm beat up. And it's like, okay, I gotta get past this. I've gotta forgive them. I've gotta work hard on getting beyond this. So being a journalist, I wrote a book. And the book is called A Sacred Duty, because it is. It's a sacred duty to serve our veterans. It is. And it's a sacred duty to serve our military. But it's a sacred duty how Whistleblower took on the VA and won. Fortunately for us, it's won a couple of awards. I do have some copies here. If anybody's interested, I will gladly sign them for you. They are $20. I do have to pay for them. They charge me, so I have to charge you. I wish they were free, but they're not. And that's my story. So I thank you for being here today, for what you do, and I'm happy to take any questions if we have the time.
Absolutely superb. I would hope that more would have courage as it would pertain to so many other programs that need assistance for our veterans outside of the VA. Also want to make mention to you in our announcements here that Reese Across America is seeking volunteers to help with unpacking and preparation of the wreaths for veterans' graves. That will take place on Friday, December 13th, and then the laying of the wreaths the following day on Saturday, December 14th. That's Remembrance Day. And the event will take place at the Mountain View Cemetery on Main Street in Mesa. Carpooling is highly recommended due to parking concerns. And Nancy Fassbender will have a sign-up sheet here in the back of the room upon your departure. So if you have either of those days available, or both, and would like to participate in that, it is a very, very worthwhile event, and I encourage you to sign up for it. Yes, Jim?
What time?
I'm sure that once Nancy has the names, she will dispatch a email memorandum to everyone describing the event and what needs to be brought and what needs to be done. Correct?
That's what I do. It's at Fridays at 3 o'clock and the ceremony's at 9:30 on Saturday.
Okay. 3 o'clock on Friday and 9:30 on Saturday, but she'll put out an email. Also, I also want to make a note that on December 6th and December 20 meetings here, we have guest speakers lined up for those two particular dates. I don't believe you want to miss either of those presentations. One speaker will be discussing his family's resistance to Nazi occupation of the Netherlands during World War II, and he and his family's incarceration in a Nazi concentration camp before liberation by Allied troops. Our other speaker is a survivor of 5.5 years of incarceration in the Hanoi Hilton by the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War. So I encourage you very much so to put those 2 dates aside, December 6th, December 20. Love to have you also. Again, someone asked this morning, are we going to have a meeting on the day following Thanksgiving? The answer is absolutely yes. And we hope that you will be in attendance. I also would like to announce that Larry and Sue Smith host a trivia games at the Las Palmas Grand Ballroom. That is coming up on November 26th, which is a Tuesday, I believe. And it will start at the game starts at 6 to 8. Suggest you be there around 5:30. We've had a lot of fun with this, and Larry had over 90 people in attendance last games. We're hoping to break 100 this coming game. So please, regardless of where you live, if you want to have a fun evening, come join us for that. And one final note on announcements. Please, as you're departing, leave your name badges at the back. We will have those available for you each week upon your return. To our first-time guests, thank you for joining us. We're hoping that you will plan to return. Appreciate your support very much so. If you enjoyed sharing in our camaraderie and supporting our Red Friday mission, please spread the word. And on your next visit here, bring a friend. To our winter visitors who have recently returned for some fun in the sun, welcome back, and thank you for demonstrating your support for our Red Friday program. And to all of you, let us not discount the importance of this Red Fridays group's mission. That is to remember everyone employed. Thank you and have a wonderful weekend.